tell me what are some of like the main sale issues you come across in the area? Is there anything that is more of a common one than others?
Well, I guess on sale transactions, I would say a lot of people don't know uh, that in a standard real estate contract, there's a requirement for them to provide a real property report with compliance. Okay. Um, I don't get this arising on many of your deals, Talon, but sometimes people come in and they've undertaken to provide or promised in the contract to provide a real property report with compliance and they don't have it. Okay.
Wow.
So depending on whether you're in what municipality you're in, that can have different ramifications. So for instance, if you're in the city of Grande Prairie and you don't have a real property report with compliance, let's say you have a report, but it's outdated. Well, then there's certain things that you can do to update it, but you still have to go through a process of getting new compliance, and that can be time consuming. And sometimes people haven't thought out that process, or sometimes what they've done won't get compliance.
Hmm.
Title insurance is an alternative that often people can contract at the beginning, that they'll provide either real property report with compliance or title insurance as an alternative. And that can really save people a lot of time and money. I was just chatting with Juanita for this appointment, and just so you kind of have ideas about time frames, if you need to submit a real property report to the city of Grande Prairie to get compliance, we need 8 days for that compliance to come through, and that's $150. And if you want to do it on a rush basis, we need a rush is $300, and I believe it's 3 business days.
Brutal. We had to do that on a new build a couple of years ago. And yeah, it was paying the butt, and yeah, wasn't happy about the price either. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and I mean I know this, but just for anyone watching, a real property report is a must is a essentially a provision of the real estate contract for Alberta that a seller must provide to a buyer unless otherwise there's an alternative provided. Is that correct?
That's correct. And when I'm another thing on that issue, I talked about the city of Grande Prairie being able to resubmit. So if you make an amendment in Grande Prairie, you can make a provision where you can hand draw on the real property report and get updated compliance with a hand drawn and a statutory declaration. The county of Grande Prairie doesn't allow any amendments like that. You actually have to get a whole new survey completed, and that can be an extra time constraint that sellers need to be aware of.
And price, I mean, like, let's say I'm selling a house in an older area, it's 40 years old. A lot of times, yeah, the city has nothing on file. The surveyors have nothing on file. The seller doesn't have a copy of it. Are you familiar at all with like the expenses involved to get a whole brand new survey done?
I, I'd estimate it at about $1,500, $1,200 to $1,500, but you'd have to contact a survey company for sure.
Yeah.
On sales, one of the other issues that I have recently come up with a couple times is oftentimes people don't know what's registered on their title when they're selling. So often your mortgage would be registered against your title. So if you have a mortgage, but sometimes people have a line of credit and they don't appreciate if it's a home equity line of credit that's registered against your title, or a line of credit that's not registered. And so certainly if it is registered, we still have to get a payout statement, and that has a certain time frame. And occasionally people have paid out their mortgage many years ago, and their mortgage company should have mailed them a discharge statement, which should then be submitted to the land titles office. But occasionally people get that discharge statement and don't know that they should submit it to the land titles office, so the discharge is never registered. So one of the most difficult things we have in sales is people who've paid out their mortgage 5, 10 years ago and don't have that discharge statement, because now we're trying to contact a mortgage company and it takes a lot longer than if the mortgage was currently owed.